Welcome to Drona C's one-year review of the DJI Mavic 2 Zoom. A little over a year ago, I was asked what I wanted for my anniversary, and I jokingly said a drone. Now, I always ask for gifts which will make my life easier and that I actually need. Usually, I get things for my kitchen. I did not need a drone. I love photography, and I knew a drone would give me the opportunity to get photos from a different view, but I did not expect to get a drone. I figured it would be something we would purchase down the road because a good one isn't cheap. My husband did his research and decided for the money, since they were having a big sale on the Mavic 2 Zoom, that would be the best drone to get. So guess what? We ended up with a drone. We opened it up on December 27th, 2018, and we also went online and registered with the FAA. We had been watching YouTube videos for 7 weeks because it took that long for the drone to arrive, so we were up to date on all the rules and regulations and a lot of things we needed to know to fly the drone. So the next day, on December 28th, 2018, we took it up for our first flight. We have an iPad mini that we use when we fly, and the first thing we had to learn was how to slow down when turning, because in our very first video everything was spinning much too quickly. We kept it in beginner mode while we were learning everything, and in beginner mode it only goes up to 90 something feet. Also, on our very first flight, we got these zebra stripe lines across the iPad mini screen, which we had no idea what those were, but later we figured out it was because the sun was shining into the camera. And that led to another purchase. We ended up purchasing some filters, which that was an amazingly awesome purchase. If you do not have filters, I suggest getting some. We finally got brave enough to fly off of our deck. In the wintertime, all the leaves are gone from the trees, so it's easier to take off in between the trees. We experimented with each of the intelligent flight modes, and once we felt comfortable enough flying over land, we moved to flying over the lake. My advice to all new drone pilots is to take your time. If something pops up on the screen that you're not sure about, just go ahead and land the drone and then research what it is. We had a high wind warning pop up on one flight. Another flight, we had a CPU fully loaded error. That happened in the summertime, and come to find out, that was the iPad mini overheating. The iPad mini doesn't do well in direct sunlight, so when you're flying in the summer heat, make sure you have something to shield your iPhone or your iPad mini from the sun. We have a sun shield which we use on the iPad mini, and it also helps where we can see the screen when the sun is shining. I also had an obstacle avoidance pop up one time when I was in a flight, and I was about 350 feet up in the sky away from all obstacles, but it ended up being birds flying by. We had some very close encounters with birds, but luckily none have tried to take down our drone yet. Oh, and there was the time we went over to North Carolina to Field of the Woods to see the world's largest 10 commandments. We went up to the top and was going to fly the drone down, and we had everything set up to take off, but we were missing the cable that connects from the controller to the iPad. So I set the drone up on the landing pad where Steve thought was the best place, and he went back out to the car to get the cable. Well, when he gets back, he wasn't watching where he was stepping, and he stumbled right on top of the drone. It ended up bending the back leg on the drone a little, and I decided to take it up to see if it still worked. Well, when I went to take off, a big gust of wind came up. It picked up our landing pad and the drone, and it slammed it into the wall behind us. I'm telling y'all, that wasn't the best day for our drone. Once the wind settled down, I took it up to make sure it all still worked. Thankfully, it did. We went up to the top of the mountain, and we lost signal. The controller would not communicate with the iPad, so there was no way to see what it was filming. We weren't sure how to fly without signal, but we took it up with just the controller instead of the iPad, and it did film. We just couldn't tell if it was or wasn't at that time. So that led me to researching how to fly our drone when there is no Wi-Fi signal. That's when I learned about caching maps before you go out to a no-signal area. We took it to an area about 30 minutes from our home that does not have a signal, and we took it up to see how it worked. As long as your map is cached, it will pull up on your iPad mini screen and you can see what you're filming even though there is no Wi-Fi signal. This was very helpful since there are many places around Tennessee that have no Wi-Fi signal. This past year has been a learning experience. The only time I officially crashed my drone was one day when I was landing on the deck, and instead of going straight down, it went to the side and hit the side of the deck. Popped off the side of the deck and landed upside down on the deck. If it would have went a half a foot further over, it would have flipped over our deck. And our deck is about 10 to 15 feet off the ground, so it would have fallen down into the woods below. So thankfully it did not do that because I did not want to have to climb down the hill and fish out my drone. Flying above the fog is amazingly beautiful. I have captured plenty of sunrises and sunsets, and I've captured a rainbow and a sunrise at the same time. One of my latest videos was my first time flying in the snow. We rarely get snow here in this area of Tennessee, so when we got a few inches, I had to take the drone up to get some footage. It is one of my most favorite videos so far. But one thing I noticed was the battery drained down very quickly in that weather. I don't know if that is normal, but if you take it up in different temperatures, just be sure to pay attention to your battery power remaining. I barely had enough battery to get back home and land. So my review of the Mavic 2 Zoom after using it for a year is this drone has been great. The photo quality and the video quality exceeds my expectations. I know they say the Pro has a better camera, but I have to say I have been very happy with the zoom and the camera. And I especially like being able to zoom in on locations to take photos without having to fly all the way up to it. I'm not a person that's going to test my drone to the limits. We spent too much money on this drone to do these tests to see how far it will fly before having to turn around and come back home and hoping you have enough battery power to make it back home. I like to stay within all the rules and regulations, and I'm not a risk taker. So flying the drone normally without taking any major risks like testing the battery power, flying in extremely bad weather or high winds, this drone has been amazing. Even with the few accidents we have had with this drone, it has held up extremely well. The obstacle avoidance is amazing too, although the constant beeping gets annoying when you're trying to take off between the trees on our back deck. If you are shopping for a drone, I definitely recommend this one, and no, I'm not getting paid to say that. Our channel is much too small and we don't make any money off of it. My advice for beginners is to get out there and fly. You can learn what you're doing wrong by watching your video footage. That is how I have learned to correct some of the errors in my flight. I'm still learning, but I've gotten a lot better compared to my first flight. Something new always pops up, and I just researched to learn how to overcome the issue. This started out as a husband-wife project, but it's turned into me doing most of the drone flights. Steve still flies, just not as often as I do. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments, or you can send us an email at dronacy@gmail.com. I hope you found this year in review helpful. If so, leave us a thumbs up. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Also, there are full-length videos to all the clips we put into this video on our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. Until our next flight, have a blessed week.